Welcome to Knicks Home Court with your host. My name is Greg Armstrong. This is episode number 93. I'm still a little under the weather, but I'm making it. The second day of D-Day with Kristaps Porzingis. So, doing this podcast, the Knicks play Toronto Raptors tomorrow, but I'm doing this podcast because the Knicks made a trade. A small trade. They traded Billy to, wait a minute, I don't know why I was thinking Charlotte Hornets. It wasn't the Charlotte Hornets, wasn't it the Orlando Magic? Anywho, it's not a big deal either way. It's the Knicks get back. Well, they already cut the player, Bryant, and they get two second-round draft picks in the year 2020 and 2021. And you know what? Even though that seems like nothing, that's still something. Even though, they weren't going to get anything better for him. Let's be real. They weren't going to get anything like, how can I put it, like a first-round draft pick. Only way they could have done that. See, this is the thing. It's tough in the NBA. It's tough in sports when you can't, honestly, the optimal time to trade Billy was at the end of the season or the off season or the beginning of the season. As soon as you realize Cancer was that guy, before you sullied Billy, should have traded him. But I'm not mad at the Knicks because you know what? They probably believed that Billy had the fortitude to work his way back. This is why I like Tim Hardaway Jr. He was sent to the D-League. He didn't mope. He didn't even ask for a trade. He was like, yo, my NBA career is on the line. Let me get my ass together. But Billy, I need to be traded. Send me somewhere else. I'm going to tell you like this, Billy's garbage. Because he has a garbage attitude. Just because a guy is a nice guy and he seems like a cool guy, that's fine. Don't mean he don't have a fucked up attitude. Deep down inside. Doesn't want to work hard to become really good. Doesn't take it as a... See, that's the difference now. Again, I'm not trying to bang on millennials because it's not about millennials. It's actually about Generation Xers. And what I mean is that, which is my generation, is basically the way we raising our kids now is, we want to be softer, kinder, gentler. We want to build up their confidence, and we want them to, we're softer than our parents. For some reason, we think we're better than our parents when we turned out all right. But this is the thing. I feel like some millennials lack toughness because of basically the way parenting is now. And I know it's just a far off perspective or a far off thought or anything like that. But when I played in Little League, it was like this. And I know everybody knows about this already. When I played in Little League and Junior Pony baseball, because that was my first love, when I played that, you had the winners who got trophies and second place who got jackets, or flip-flop, whoever. If the winners wanted jackets, then the second place got trophies. Either way. Third place got shit. Thanks for coming. You got your uniform. Keep your uniform if you want. We'll have new ones next year. It was a good experience. That's what you get. And I remember it used to only be $25 to join the league. That was so funny. But that's what you get. And it wasn't nothing wrong with it. If your team came in third and you lost, you understood. You lost. You understood. Now it's like, I understand building confidence. Now we got a bunch of grown-up people who are confident but without achieving anything. And I always wonder what comes first, the confidence or the achievement. Sometimes it's the confidence, but if you have so much confidence and you continuously don't achieve anything, then you just live in a falsehood. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. So it's a fine line. And the reason why I went through that whole thing is because I don't feel like Billy is willing to bust his ass. And you know what? Attitude for the longest time has made NBA players not make it in this league. You have the wrong attitude, you're not going to make it in this league. Plain and simple. The NBA is hard, folks. So I don't give a fuck. Trey Burke learned that the hard way. Top 5 pick. Struggling to stay in the league. You see he went to the D-League? Who the fuck you think you are, Billy? You know? I mean, look, he could score, he could play. I don't expect him to ever become a good defender. But my thing is, you have to be dedicated to your craft. You have to be dedicated to your craft. You can't see, this is what people don't understand. The NBA is not a job. It's a career, and it's completely different from a job. Those who think about the NBA and getting better 24 hours a day, always figuring out ways, watching tape, watching old players, figuring out new moves or things like that, those guys stay in the league, sometimes become stars. My problem with Billy, okay, let's say your defense isn't really that good. No problem. You're not going to really get much better at defense. Your footwork is not great on. Okay, let's say all of that's fine. What about your offensive game? Because, you know, you showed promise. You should at least have worked on that. You should have at least worked on your offensive game and became elite in that. I've always said, Billy, if you want to stay on the court, work on your three-point shot. I guarantee he's going to work on that three-point shot now. Because if you're not a stretch 5 and you're slow, you can't defend the pick and roll, they have no place for you in this league. None. None. No place for you in this league, buddy. And I know I sound like I'm like angry at Billy. I'm not angry at him, but I just be disillusioned at these young players who mind is not right, and then the people around them is not telling them, yo, work on your shit, because you will find yourself back in Spain. And I find that like, to me, you know how they say the European players are soft and things like that? I don't believe that. You know, but work on your game. Oh, I think I need to play. You think, if I'm a coach, you think you're going to get better by playing on the court? No, you're going to get better practice. You're going to get better in the fucking G League. Ron Baker went to the G League and he had a 2-year contract. Had no problem going to the G League. Whatever you want. I'm in this league. Because the one way to get out the league is thinking you're good, not getting playing time, and riding on the bench and then asking for a trade. So what happens? You go to the next team and you ride on the bench because they realize you can't defend the pick and roll. You're going to just sit there and sulk and say, I'm going to go back to Europe. That's what's going to happen. I almost guarantee that Billy will go back to Europe. He'll be back in Spain within 2 years if he don't change his attitude. Plain and simple. You got to have grit and determination to make it in this league. You can't be like, I'm here, I should play. No. Based on what I did last year against Scrubs when the games didn't count. See, that's why I try to tell y'all, like right now, what's going to happen? The Knicks are going to end up playing their youth. They're going to play their young players. And a lot of the games, right now the games still count. They're still technically in the playoffs, you know, in the hunt. They're 4 games out of the 8th seed. So technically, and they might have a little bump because sometimes players pull together when things like this happen. And I still expect them to play hard, right? But if, like, say, once they're like 8, 9 games out, 10 games out, and the games don't really mean much, and you put the young players in, whatever they do at that moment, take it with a grain of salt, because I don't believe it. When the games don't count, I don't believe it. Only thing I can look at with Ntilikina and all of these players, when the game doesn't count, when the games don't count, only thing I can say is that's a good way to develop these players. It's a good way to develop your players. But what I'm saying is, if in the last 20 or 20 games of the season, Ntilikina starts averaging 12, 8, and 9 or something like that, take it with a grain of salt. Okay, it looks good. We appreciate that. He's playing well. We like that. Let's see you do it when it counts. Let's do it. Let's see you do it when we're trying to make a playoff push. You know, because what happens is when your team is out the playoffs and your team is not good, teams don't play you the same way. Unfortunately, that's just how it happens. They'll lay off of you. You know, they'll still try to beat you, but all right, we'll go through the motions, and in the fourth quarter we'll just smash them. And that happens a lot. And when the games don't count, it's almost like, I've seen it, and a lot of people who listen to this podcast probably have seen this and probably have played basketball before. You know how in gym, you got guys who are balling out, doing all this crazy stuff, and then when the games count, they all zipped up, can't do half of the shit they did. They scared to do it. They scared of the coach. They scared they're gonna fuck up. They scared they're gonna lose a game. You see, when you have nothing to lose, it's easy to play that way. It's easy to go all out and do whatever you need to do. But when the games count, now Ntilikina on the other hand, there's something that I got to touch on, something that Hornacek said that was complete bullshit to me. And I'm getting tired of Hornacek. And Hornacek's job might have gotten saved by Kristaps getting hurt. Because now there's no expectations. There's no expectations right now. So now the Knicks have a harder job in figuring out what they want to do with Hornacek. Honestly, at this point, I think we need to let him go. I don't think he's a coach for the Knicks for the future. I just don't think he's the coach. I just don't. I don't think he's a good people person. I don't like his offensive schemes. See, I'm just judging his results. I'm believing that he knows more than I know. And with the increased knowledge that he has in playing basketball and being an NBA All-Star and all the stuff, and I'm seeing what he's doing out there on the court, and I'm seeing the results, and I'm seeing the coaching, and I think he's just not the coach for the Knicks. And I think the Knicks need to jump on that. And I think the Knicks need to start looking for a coach before the season ends. And if they can find a good coach, you want to bring a coach in at the end of the season so they can get and start evaluating players for the next season. But we need a coach who believes in today's basketball, because that shit that the Knicks play, that's not. I like ball movement and player movement. I love that. But the fact that the Knicks are leading the league in 2-point shots and last in 3-point shots, Hornacek got to go, because that's not a winning formula. It's just not. It's been proven it's not a winning formula. When Houston Rockets started shooting all those threes, everybody hated it. And I don't like it myself. Sometimes it's boring. But it's a winning formula. It's been proven. So to not go with a proven winning formula, and then you have a guy like Kristaps, and what did I tell you? When Kristaps had that big game, when he shot all those threes, I was laughing because I was like, this is how they should use him. He should be shooting at least 10 threes a game. 5 to 10 threes a game. That will preserve his body as well. Pick and pop, at least shooting 10 threes a game, which means he doesn't have to go in the paint 10 times. It takes away 10 times of going in the paint or running around and doing all that crazy shit. Pick and pop. So, yeah, I wanted to talk, and somebody had mentioned, what about David Blatt? I like David Blatt as a coach. He coaches defense, obviously. I don't know about his offense. Because, see, again, it's a different time, folks. We need an offensive coach. Offensive coaches is the way to go. It just is the way to go at this point. You need defense, but you got to understand, and I agree with D'Antoni to a certain extent. High-octane offense puts pressure on other teams' offense. How? We come out the gate gunning. 7-0 run, 8-0 run. Teams are going to have to figure out what they need to do. Teams are going to try to play with you, and they're going to have to figure it out. And if they don't figure it out, they're going to get blown out. That puts pressure on other opposing teams' offense. Not defense, but offense. Because they're going to be forced to need to do something. And Golden State does it all the time, too. So teams are going to have to try to slow down the game. It's just the way the game is played nowadays. Now, I know Minnesota, I think they play a little bit of a throwback game, and they're winning games and stuff like that. And that's fine. You have enough talent, you could do it and stuff like that. But, come on, man. It just is what it is. And the NFL is a passing league. You don't see a bunch of running teams. You don't see somebody bucking the system and trying to have a running team. You need a running game, but the NFL is a passing game. It changed to a passing game. Why? Because of the rules. Because you can't touch receivers. You can't hit them. You can't. That's why the league has adjusted and made it an aerial game. That's what it is. And in NBA, 3 is more than 2. You have to adjust to that shit. And he's not willing to do that, which is weird because he was a 3-point shooter as well. So I don't know if Kurt Rambis is in his ear or what. I don't know what the fuck happened. But anyway, David Blatt, like I said, I'm not really sure about his offense. I like him as a coach. I'm not even upset with a coach that comes in and maybe is not an offensive coach, but is open to offensive theories and stuff and willing to change and willing to adapt to what's going on today. But Jeff Hornacek is very stubborn. So I would fire him. He's not Perry's choice. He wasn't Mills' choice. I would fire him. I would do it sooner than later. I wouldn't even wait. Get a new guy in here before the season ends. David Blatt's your homie. You want to bring David Blatt? I'm fine with David Blatt. I think he's a hell of a coach. I really do. I think that he got the short end of the stick. I think they shitted on him. You know, it's like that, though. It's like that. The league is rough. It's like that. So, you know, I would go with, I wouldn't be mad with David Blatt. I know he's a good coach. But I think he's in Europe right now. I don't think he's coming here to deal with this shit. You know, I don't think he's desperate for a job. Because that's how it is if you desperate for a job, you know. If you want to come and coach the Knicks at this point. It doesn't look like a great job at this point with Kristaps and his future's up in the air right now at this point. That's why the Knicks really need to find themselves a gem in this draft. I would approach I would approach it as right now we don't have Kristaps Porzingis. I would approach this whole draft that we're looking for our franchise player. We have to scout and look to draft and look to make moves with the worst thing in mind. I know that sounds crazy, but we have to do it that way. We have to think of it this way. We don't have a franchise player right now until he comes back. We don't have one. We don't know if he'll be the same. We don't know if he's going to reach his potential. We don't know what's going to happen with Kristaps. So this draft, we can't just draft like a defensive guy, you know, unless he's elite. Like, you know, we have to draft somebody who possibly can be a star. Even though that's what every team wants to do, obviously. Every team wants to draft a star, so I don't want to say it like that. But I'm just saying that the Knicks need to look to draft a star player. Somebody who can be the franchise. And if Kristaps is healthy, now you got 2 guys who can be the franchise, which is the way how you win championships in this league. You know, so that's how I look at it with Kristaps. When the draft comes up, Knicks need to look at you know what? If Michael Porter slips to the Knicks, which is possible, he's just tore an ACL, I might consider that. Why? Because we know he has a talent. I think he tore an ACL. We know he has a talent. And you got to understand, the reason why I was so upset yesterday, the thing that upset me yesterday is the fact that it's that kind of injury. You know, if it was a broken leg, or not even a broken leg, just something that keeps him out for the rest of this year, I would have been fine with it. 2 months, 3 months. This is the worst possible injury he can have. It's literally in the middle of his knee. So I got to think the worst. If I'm Knicks GM, I'm thinking the worst. He's never going to be the same. It's not about a jinx. Fuck all that shit. You have to plan that way. You don't plan with hope. People who plan with hope, what I mean is, don't prepare for the worst and only plan as if everything's going to work out. You don't have success that way. You don't have success. You know, I came up with a little saying, you know, I know people, I used to always be late. And I wanted to figure out how to stop being late. So I talked to people who was always on time. Like, damn, what do you do? Motherfuckers got to be to work at 6, they there at 5:30. Got to get there at 8, they there at 7 o'clock, 7:30. How do you do that? And one guy told me, he said, look, if I got to be to work at 8, I plan for 7:30. I actually try my best to get to the job at 7:30. Because if I'm late for 7:30, I'm on time for 8. And, that's when it dawned on me. And that's when I came up with a statement. I said, if you're planning to be on time, you're late. If you're planning to be early, you're on time. Because if you're planning to be on time, then everything has to work perfectly for you to be on time. If you're planning to be early and something goes wrong, you're still going to be on time. And I know I'm coming up with all these perspectives. And I guess when you're stressed out and you're upset, you come up with a bunch of philosophies, I guess, I bet you a lot of people who wrote books on relationships have nothing but failed relationships because they understand what makes relationships fail. So anyway, if I'm the Knicks, I'm looking for my franchise guy. I'm not assuming that Kristaps is going to be Kristaps anymore. I'm not assuming that. Remember the little injury that Yao Ming had? Oh, he'll be back, and he kept being back. And what did Houston keep doing? They kept waiting for him, kept waiting for him. T-Mac got hurt. They kept waiting for him. 2 years, 3 years. Nope. That's the wrong way to go about it. Keep it moving. If you're healthy, we'll have you back. If not, we're preparing for life without you. And that's how you got to do it. There's no other way around that. That's the way you have to play this. And that's how the Knicks need to look at it. Right now, the Knicks need to be trying to find their franchise guy in this draft. This draft or the next draft. Because basically, the Knicks are... look, you try to win games. And you don't understand the ramifications because him being hurt. So now we got a year of Tim Hardaway's contract that, okay, we got something out of it. Next year, he's not going to have Kristaps for half of the year. So that's a second year of his contract. That's 2 years of his contract kind of like gone. Then in his third year, Kristaps hopefully should be healthy. Because look, next year's a wash. Because when he comes back in February next year, if he comes back, if it's February and it's not March, April, because we don't know how many months it's going to take. He's a big guy. He's going to be on a minutes restriction. They're not going to be thinking about the playoffs next year. It's a complete rebuild, and we're forced to do it in the worst possible way. There's no fucking silver lining, folks. I don't believe in that bullshit. It's like, there's no silver lining. There's none. I'm not, trying to make people upset, but there's no silver lining. Silver lining comes later. Or not silver lining, but the plus comes later. Bottom line. So if this draft, I'm looking at guys so I'm not looking at ancillary parts. See, in the past, before Kristaps got hurt, they were looking for a guy who can play along Kristaps, right? So he didn't have to be quote unquote a franchise player, just a player who can mesh with Kristaps. No longer can think like that. No, we need a guy who's possibly a two-way player or an offensive star. Somebody who's unstoppable. Somebody who's really, really good. So that means DeAndre Ayton, I'm not drafting him number 1. He's elite defensively. I'm not drafting him because I don't think he's a franchise player. I think he's a very good player. I just don't, in my opinion, because you can't be a franchise player if you're not really a scorer. I haven't seen a franchise. Now, there are some in history, but recently, it's an offensive game. And tell me, if you look at the All-Star team, if you look at the top 5 players, show me one who's just defensive. And Kawhi Leonard is the closest you can get. And he's not just defensive. He became a star once his offensive game came around. So don't let anybody fool you with that bullshit. You don't want a sleeve, or what the fuck, a matador. You don't want somebody who doesn't play defense at all, who can't move their feet. No, you want an athletic person who can shoot and score. And hopefully they can eventually play D. Marvin Bagley fits that. He plays the kind of the same position as Kristaps, but he's interchangeable with the center position. And against a big lineup, maybe he can squeeze over to the 4. You got a guy like Trae Young. I am not a big fan of Trae Young, to be honest, because I don't like small guards. I don't. He might be 6'1", 6'2", but I don't really like small guards. and unathletic guards. However, he shoots the lights out. You got to consider him. You got to if you draft Trae Young, you got to consider trading Ntilikina. You got to consider that. Things change. You got to really, everything is up in the air at this point. You know, because what you're going to see without Kristaps is the Knicks are offensively deficient. And they're not winning games with no fucking defense because they don't play fucking defense. They're one of the worst defenses in the league, but this guy's preaching defense. You got all these offensive players and you're preaching defense. I've just never seen that. It's like he's trying to please the masses or some shit. You know, if I'm a coach and look, it's easy for me to say from where I'm at, but if I'm a coach and the GM is like, we want to play defense and this and that, I'm like, listen, y'all gonna fire me based on results. Bottom line. I don't give a fuck if I got the #1 defense. If my team is not making the playoffs and they in the bottom, you're going to fire me. So I'm going to coach my way. At least you'll fire me for doing, and I did my thing. And that's the best way to be. In life, anyway. Be yourself. Fuck all the bullshit. But anyway, so who in this draft possibly can be a franchise guy? I think DeAndre Ayton, I think his name is, he could be a franchise anchor. He could be like a Dikembe Mutombo. I don't know about his offensive game. They comparing him to David Robinson, which is a very skilled, that's lofty. That's lofty. Let's not do that. He might be defensively somewhere near that stratosphere. But yeah, I don't know. I don't want to say that. David Robinson was another level. Another level, by the way. Lethal shooter. He was like a taller Chris Bosh and a better defensive Chris Bosh. And Chris Bosh is a Hall of Famer. That's how good David Robinson is. So I would not mention that guy's name in the same breath. You know, I want a small forward / scorer, athletic small forward. I think that's the way to go in the NBA. Either you get that or you get an elite scoring point guard. So I like Kevin Knox, but I don't think he's a franchise guy. Now, also, the guy from Villanova, Mikal Bridges, I'm not looking at him anymore. Nope, unless I have nothing less. Because to me, he's a niche player. Good player. He's probably going to be a really good defender. But I don't think he's ever going to be like a star thing like that. He's like a poor man Tayshaun Prince without the length. And now I'm not looking at him anymore because I don't think he can carry a franchise. We're looking for someone who can possibly carry a franchise. And you got to do your scouting. Now, the other guy, Miles Bridges, I'm still looking at him, but he looks like in the NBA at his best, he can probably be his number 2. So I'm looking at him side-eye, but I'm looking at him, you know. So the Knicks have to recalibrate. Trae Young, because of the way the game is played today, is somebody you got to look at. You got to consider him. You got to consider an elite three-point shooter, an elite scorer at the point guard position. You have to consider that situation. That's why I'm considering Michael Porter. Why? Even though he's come off a catastrophic injury and all of that, he was the #1 pick. You have to, if he drops all the way down to like say 8 or 9 or 10, which is not a good sign, which means that maybe, I mean, he could force his way by not letting teams see the medical records and things like that. I don't know. But I would scoop him up. You have to take a chance at being great. You have to. I know it's like, oh, you don't want to. Look, if Michael Porter's healthy, he's probably going to be a star in this league. He's 6'10". He's probably going to be a star. Luka Doncic, I don't think he's going to slide to where the Knicks are. I'm not a big fan. I'm just not a fan. I'm not a fan of hype. And he looks really good. He can shoot the lights out. He's 6'8", 6'8", 6'7". He has handle. I don't see the quickness, though. I don't see the quickness. You see, I had confidence in Kristaps because regardless of the athleticism, and I do have confidence that he can come back and still be a star, actually, because he's 7'3". So the worst case scenario, he could do a lot of pick and pop, shoot 10 threes a game, post up, not move around as much as he did, you know, now. You can slow his game down. He's still going to be a star, I believe. But you still have to draft as in you don't know what's going to happen with him. Because is he going to change his game? He's not trying to change his game at this young age. To just be a post up and a pick and pop guy, which would preserve legs. He's not going to do that. So the Knicks need to consider And they need to consider trading to get a higher pick if that's possible. But they have to be open to anything and everything. And like I said, only guys I see in this draft to me is franchise guys is, so far, I may change my opinion on this, is Michael Porter, who, again, he got hurt, so he may not even be the same player. And I'm only reaching on him because he's like in the Joel Embiid area where you know he's great if he's healthy. So Michael Porter is a franchise guy. I think Trae Young is along the likes of Steph Curry, Damian Lillard type player. I'm not putting him in the category. He's that type of player. He's a player that you can build around. So he's a player that you got to consider if he's anywhere near you where you can draft. That's two guys. I like Marvin Bagley, who's also a scorer and an elite player. He can shoot the three, and he's, 6'10"? He's just really good. I like DeAndre Ayton if Kristaps is healthy. You see what I'm saying? But if Kristaps is not healthy, I don't like him. Because, we need scoring. You need scoring to win in the NBA, folks. You need scoring to win in the NBA. So anyway, that's my take on that. And again, I haven't delved into the college game. Now I have to. And you know what? I was listening to another podcast. And you know what? Shout out to James Marcita, because I really like that podcast. I'll tell people, check it out. There's no hate here. I'm not battling with people with podcasts. But Locked On Knicks is a dope podcast. Ain't no hate here. I'm a Knicks fan. I like good Knick talk and good Knick, and I support that shit. And I love that podcast. Go check it out. You can find it on iTunes and stuff. I'm up here advertising for the guy. But I think the podcast is good. I listen to it all the time. So I'm just letting you know. That's a really good one. Because I listen to other Knicks podcasts and they say preposterous bullshit. Then I won't mention them on here in this space. So what else? So I'm going to start. The reason why I mentioned James Marcita, I have to mention him because he said something that's so true and how I feel right now. I'm tired of watching losing basketball. I understand that at least this time I'm still excited to watch games because I want to see what Dotson can do. I want to see what these guys can do. Next season, I don't know how excited I'm going to be to go through another season like this. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop being a Knicks fan. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop doing podcasts. Because every year in the beginning of the year, we're all excited. We're 0-0, and everybody can win a championship when the season starts, mentally. But, at least, all right, this is what I'm saying. If we bring Jeff Hornacek back, and he's doing that same bullshit, I'm sorry, folks. I'm going to be looking at the highlights. I'm not sitting through that shit. I'm not sitting through hours and hours of shitty basketball. I'm sorry. If there's something that happens in the game worth seeing, I'll go back and watch it. I'm still going to analyze it because obviously I want to do the podcast, so I'm going to analyze it. I'm going to watch what I can watch. I'm going to do that. But it's going to be games that I probably won't see. There's going to be games I'm probably going to check out on. And this is how I keep my sanity in this shit. Seriously. And I'm going to tell y'all, too, if you really want to know basketball, don't be the kind that's just a Knicks fan and not a basketball fan. Watch other teams in the league. The league is on fire right now. There are other good teams in this league. I'm not saying be a fan of the teams, but if you watch other teams and other elite teams, you start to understand what it takes to win in this league. And if you only watch the Knicks, you're only in Knick land. You're only in Knick land. Talk about second round draft picks and shit. You don't really get to see the beauty of basketball. Because I know a lot of Knicks fans who now won't watch basketball. Oh, I'm not going to watch basketball. The Knicks suck. You're not a basketball fan, dude. You're a Knicks fan. And I'm more than a Knicks fan. I'm a Knicks fan, but I'm an NBA fan. And that is what I will do. Watch other teams and other games. And that's how you know about other players. That's when trades go down. Oh, I know about that player because I watched him on it. I don't get paid to do it, but I am an NBA junkie. No doubt. But anyway, like I said, I think the Knicks need to be looking for their franchise guy. I think they need to be looking for someone not to replace Kristaps, but not necessarily an ancillary part. Because this draft, they were looking for somebody to complement Kristaps. Now, I'm not looking for somebody to complement Kristaps. You want him to be able to play with Kristaps, but you want somebody whose star can shine as bright as Kristaps. And now, that's why I'm talking about Michael Porter, Trae Young. And right now, those are the two names that keep popping in my mind. A distant third right now is Miles Bridges. I don't think he's a franchise guy, but I think he's very, very, very good. I don't think he can carry a franchise, though, and that's what you need to be looking at. I like Kevin Knox. I don't know how good he can be. But I'm going to delve into it more and more each episode and things like that. I'm going to get into it. I haven't been watching much college basketball. I've been following him, looking at the stats and stuff like that, but I'm really going to delve into that in the near future. Because I can see any game I want to see. I got a life. I got kids, you know. Anyway, this has been Knicks Home episode number, I forgot the episode. Is it 93 or 92? Well, it's somewhere in the 90s, folks. You'll see when I put in the listings. That's how I've been feeling these days. Anyway, this has been Knicks Home Court. I'm your host. My name is Greg Armstrong, and I'll speak to y'all later. Peace.